Hi guys, welcome back. This is the NASA thread. Today on the channel, I'll be showing you how to make a tiered skirt, also known as a gypsy skirt. You can also refer to it as a layered skirt. If this is something you're interested in knowing how to make, you want to keep watching, and if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, do well to subscribe, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let's dive right in. So you'll be needing your fabric. I have 4 yards of crepe fabric and a zip for this project. Now we're going to create a guideline for us to work with so we're not confused. I will start off by sketching a skirt. Okay, I'm not so perfect at drawing, so just manage what you're seeing. So you're going to sketch this out, and then the next thing you want to determine is the length where you want your skirt to get to. So for me, I'm working with 44 inches for the length of my skirt. Now that we have the length of the skirt, the next thing to determine is how many layers do you want. That's the tiers. Do you want 2? Do you want 3? Do you want 5? Do you want 6? As much as you want, depending on the volume of the layers you want. So for this project, we'll be doing 4. So I'll go ahead and divide the sketch I have here by 4. So now that we have 4, it means we're going to divide the length by the 4 tiers which we want for the skirt. So 44 divided by 4 gives us 11. It means that each tier we have 11 as the length. Okay, each tier will have 11 inches as the length. Now for the first tier, we're going to have a band, so we need to minus our band inches. So I'm using 1.5 inches band for this skirt. I'm going to minus it from the first tier. So 11 minus 1.5, we're going to have 9.5 inches. It means that the first tier has been reduced to 9.5. Now I want my second and third tier to be bigger than what I have at the third one. So I'm going to reduce the fourth one, that is the last tier, by 2 inches, and then share that to the second and the third. So I'll minus 2 inches from that. 11 minus 2 gives me 9. Okay, so that 2 inches I minused, I'm going to share it to the second and the third tier. It means that the second tier will be 12, the third tier will be 12. So if you want yours to be different, if you want anyone to be smaller, you can go ahead to reduce the last tier as much as you want. You can see the different variations of how people create this gypsy skirt. Okay, you can see that. So you go ahead and share that accordingly. If you also want them to be equal, you go ahead and leave it there. So now, to determine the width of what we're going to cut to create that gather effect, we're going to be multiplying our piece by our hip. Okay, so we're going to be using 1.5 inches for the multiplication. You can go ahead to use 2 or more depending on the volume you want. Now for the first tier, go ahead and multiply 44 inches, which is the hip in this case, times 1.5 to get the width of the first tier. Then for the second tier, multiply 66 inches, which is what we got from the first, by 1.5 inches to get the second. For the third, you're going to multiply what you got from the third by still 1.5 inches in order for you to know what to cut out. Then for the fourth, you multiply what the answer you got from the third by 1.5 inches again to know the volume of the width you're cutting out. So the first one we got was the length. This one now is the width. Okay, don't mistake them now. So now that we've determined this, now we're going to bring in the length furthermore. Okay, now for the length, we'll be adding extra inches to that. So for the first tier, I'm going to add 1 inch to the first tier. This will serve as the joining allowance to the band and also the joining allowance to the second tier. For the second tier, 1 inch is to join to the second and to join to the top and the third. Then the third one to join to the second and the fourth. Now for the fourth one, we're going to add 1.5 inches instead. So this 1.5 inches will help us to determine 1.5 inches will help us to add to the third and then to hem at the base. Okay, I hope you understand. So now I'm going ahead to sketch out another skirt. Okay, so that we can now place our measurements properly. Remember, we're using 4 tiers for this skirt. Okay, if you want to use more, go ahead and do that. We already spoke about that in the first. So it means that the length for the first tier will be 10.5, while the width will be 66 inches. So you can see I'm writing them at opposite sides. Then the length for the second tier will be 13, the width will be 99. The length for the third will be 13, the width will be 148.5, and then the length for the fourth will be 13 too, and then the width will be 222.75. Okay, so this helps us to know what we're going to cut out by the time we start cutting out our fabrics. Now the next we want to mark out is the band. So for the band, we're working with a band of 1.5 inches of width. So we're going to cut using your round waist. Okay, that's the measurement of the circumference of your round waist plus an extra 2 inches, which will be for joining the back. That's for your zip allowance. Okay, so your round waist plus 2 inches, mine will be 34 because my round waist is 32 inches. All right, now for the band, to know the width of the band to cut, we're going to be cutting out a 4 inches width of band. Okay, so by the time we finish, we have 1.5 inches left. Okay, so the width for the band is 4 inches, the length is 34. So using this measurement, I'll go ahead and cut out my different piece, and then we can start working on this. So this is what I have after I finish. You can see I labeled them tier 1, 2, 3 and 4, and the ones that required joining, I went ahead to join them at the point. So if you're joining your fabric, please join them equally on both sides. Like, share the extra piece you're joining into two and then join to the both ends, so that the joinings will just align on both sides, so that it comes out looking better. Now, starting off with the first tier, what we're going to do is to take the second one. So we're taking the second tier. What we're going to do is to run a loose stitch on it. So please continue, just leave your labels on it, what to use to tag the different tiers, so that you're not confused. So you're going to gather the second tier in order to fit into the first. So remember, the first is 66, the second is 99. So you're going to gather the 99 inches to be 66 inches. Okay, and ensure to also make notches at the midpoint of your tiers, so that they are evenly shared on both sides of your piece. Okay, so this is what I have for the first one. This is the first tier, 66 inches. It is actually folded in two, so measured 66 divided by 2 is 33 inches. So I have 33 inches here on fold. So I'm going to open this up, and then I'll start with the second one. I'm going to align the notch area I have, that's for the second and the first together, and I'll go ahead and gather it. So this is the second tier. I've gone ahead to make a loose stitch on it. What you need to do now is to drag this to be 66 inches in length, so that it can fit into the first one. Okay, I hope you understand everything I'm saying. So you're going to make a loose stitch on the second tier, please. The second tier, that's what we're starting with. You gather it so that it becomes 66 inches in width, so that it fits into the first tier which we have. So don't make any gather stitch on the first tier yet. Okay, we're just gathering the second to fit into the first. Gathering it, this is what I have. Now bring in the first tier. I'm going to align the parts which I notched, the midpoint. Okay, align them together, the first to the second, and I will place it right side to right side. Please use your pin to just hold it at that point before you go ahead to stitch it down. So ensure you're placing it right side to right side, second tier to first tier, and then go ahead and stitch it down. So ensure that it is 66 inches. So this is what I have after I stitched it down. So we have two tiers attached together. So now we're going to use the third tier and then repeat the same thing we did for the second. After fixing that of the third, do the same thing to the fourth. You're just repeating the same process, gather and stitch to the base of the tier before it. So this is what mine looks like after I finish. So I have all four of them joined together right now. You can see how long this is looking already. You can see we have the first one, the second, and then the third tier all attached together. Now the next thing we're going to do is to gather the waist area so that we can fit in our band. So go ahead and make a loose stitch at the waist area. Now that's the first tier, the top part. Now this is what it looks like. I finished gathering that, making a loose stitch, sorry. Now I'm going to just make adjustments, gather this to be my waist circumference plus 2 inches, so 34 inches in this case. Remember we said for the waist, to get the band you need to calculate your waist circumference plus 2 inches, which is the zip allowance for this. So you're going to gather the top part to be 34 inches. Whatever your round waist is plus 2 inches, say your round waist is 29 plus 2 inches is 31. You need to gather the top, that's the waist area, to be that. Okay, like I said, don't take off the tags you left on this now, because there will be confusion if you decide to use the base as your top part. You will notice that the down will now be smaller. It will not look as nice as it should look. All right, so now I'm measuring this to ensure I have 34 inches. If it's not up to, I will also go ahead and just make adjustments till I have this at 34 inches, which is what I need for it. So after doing that, this is what I have for mine. Now I've gone ahead to iron a stitch to my band, and I folded half of an inch on one side. So my band is 4 inches opened up, just like we made mention of earlier on. Okay, and I just folded half inch at this point. So I'm going to go in from the inside, that's the wrong side of my fabric, place my band to it, wrong side to the right side of my band, go ahead and stitch it by half of an inch all around. Please take your time while doing that so that it doesn't move. So this is what it looks like after I finished. You can see how nice this looks already. All right, so ensure you stitch this properly. Now the next thing we want to do is to use the top part of the band to cover the rough edge of the skirt. So what I did was actually to just ensure that this measurement was working correctly for me, because sometimes you feel like you're doing everything right, and by the time you finish, it's either the skirt is too big or it is too small. Okay, not your size. So you can see I just went in with my tape and then ensure that I was still on track, which is 34 inches for what I needed. So ensuring that that is correct, now go ahead and just flip this side to cover the rough edge of my fabric and go ahead and top stitch it all around. So ensure while doing that you have your band at 1.5 inches, like you can see here. So this is what it looks like after I finish doing mine. Now I'm going to align my piece right side to right side so I can stitch the zip area, that's the open end. Now we're placing a zipper for the band. I have a short zip that I'm using for this, that's what I'm using for mine. So I'll go ahead and firstly I'm going to pin the positions where my tiers are meeting together. Now this helps so that they're going to be in line with each other. One is not high, one is not low. If you make clothes with steps, with gathers, where you have different gathers at different points, you would notice that if you don't align those points together, you have your lines not meeting. So for it to look good and professional, you need to work with your pins, pin them down, ensure that they are meeting properly before you go ahead to stitch it together. Okay, that works perfectly. Just go ahead and just pin it from one end to the other. So now after doing that, I'll be placing my zip to this open end right here. So you want to measure, remember our stitching for the zip is 1 inch. Okay, do not exceed that or don't go below that, if not your skirt will be loosed around the waist. So 1 inch is what we're using. You want to measure where you want your zipper to end and then go ahead and stitch your zip to that. And after stitching your zipper, you go ahead and just stitch the open sides, and then at the hem you go ahead and just fold it in twice to hem it down. So this is what it looks like after I finish. This is the skirt, the finished look of our skirt. I've hemmed, I fixed my zip. You can see how nice this looks already. It's just waiting for me to wear this. So this brings us to the end of this video. Do well to subscribe to the channel if you're yet to do that, and turn on the notification bell so you're not left out when a new video is posted, and ensure to give this video a thumbs up. Now the tutorial for how I made this top with detachable sleeve, this bustier top with detachable sleeve, is available on the channel. If you've not seen that, do well to see that so that you have something to rock your skirt with. I'll be dropping the link in the description box below. Thank you for watching, and like I said, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one. Bye.